We start off with the new member. Welcome, Mr. Elijah. I am so freaking excited to share with you that one of the coolest things happened to me yesterday. I thought it was already great. I thought it was so angelic that Lane Kiffin Instagrammed about my two favorite things outside of LSU football about the state of Louisiana, Billy's Boudin and Lil Boosie. So I tweeted it out, and guess what happened? Fireworks exploded up into the air, and that wasn't planned. But this was pretty freaking awesome. That Boosie posted an Instagram story and an official Instagram post about what I had to say about Billy's Boudin. So I want to show it to you before we skedaddle here and get into some actual LSU football chatter. But by the way, Clemson 9.5-point underdogs versus LSU. We'll talk about that in just a second. But man, I've got to shout out Boosie screenshotting our tweet. And I don't know if Boosie recognized it was me because I've met Boosie before. I gave him a Jaden Daniels thing because obviously Boosie's a big JD5 fan. And he posts this and my phone blows up. And then you have Lane Kiffin posting twin. Absolutely insane. So I appreciate Lane. He posted on his Instagram and then he tweeted it out himself. And I also appreciate my GOAT, my favorite artist, Lil Boosie. I'm going crazy. Pun intended. And if you're a real Boosie fan, you know that. So pretty freaking excited about that. Big shout out to you, Lane. Big shout out to you, Lil Boosie. And yeah, I am on cloud 10. I'm on cloud 12. I'm on cloud I-20 right now. Life is great. Now, LSU, it does open up per the FanDuel Sportsbook that the Tigers are 9.5-point early favorites. And then I saw Tingle post out that now it's up to 10.5. And look, the truth remains the same about LSU football and the point spread. I am of the belief that LSU is going to be really good. I am of the belief that when you spend this much on a roster, and I don't care that it is a expanded SEC schedule next year, you should be going to the college football playoff. We are hungry. We are starved. We are a Mormon on his wedding night. We are trying our best to get to the college football playoff. We have been depraved of beauty. We have been depraved of that very thing. And by the way, that wasn't a shot at Mormons. It was a compliment. Steve Young, you're always welcome. Anyway, we have been deprived of the college football playoff, and we know Lane could get a team there like Ole Miss. I am of a belief that LSU will make the college football playoff next year. Of course, they got to sort out the offensive line. Of course, they got to sort out all this other mumbo jumbo. But I truly do believe LSU has a roster and a coaching staff good enough to go to the college football playoff. Now, before we continue, kind of weird because this is an LSU football channel. You already know the order of operations on here. It's LSU football, women's basketball, and then baseball. All right, those are the big three sports, gymnastics as well. Also, the Tiger Girls dancing to the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. Are you freaking kidding me? Here is my belief, though, is that men's basketball gets you guys depressed. But I do need to start off a show talking about men's basketball at least once. I normally wait 20, 30 into it, but now it is beyond reasonable doubt that we do need to get a new men's coach. And it sucks because we all have friends that have worked and probably played at LSU men's basketball. We want them to have the success that we're all expecting them to have, where Pete Maravich played and so on and so on. Shaq, Bob Pettit, Chris Jackson, Rudy Macklin, Marcus Thornton, whoever you want to mention. But this is just sad. This is inexplicable. This is stupendously terrible. This is probably the lowest our basketball program has been. We've gone 4 years in an expanded NCAA tournament of not really even coming close once to the NCAA tournament. Excuses are done. Sports move fast now. They move faster than anything else. I don't want to hear about NIL. I don't want to hear about injuries. you've got to make an expanded tournament at least once over a 4-year period. So there's no way you can bring Matt McMahon back unless you just want to be in penny pinching mode. LSU's not broke. We've seen that. I think Verge, as a new athletic director, he wants to go out there and go get his guy. We need to go and go get a hire. You don't have to necessarily swing big. I know I throw that name Tony Bennett out a gazillion times over, but I'm sorry. I mostly just want to talk about football in here, but as a former Dale Brown and John Brady basketball camp participant, I love this team. Star players, role players. I love it. I, as many of you know, spent my hard-earned money for tickets and all of that to go to a game this last weekend. I spent my entire birthday allowance on going hotels to go support the team in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Go see my godchildren, all that stuff. And guess what? The icy roads prevented that from happening. I still would have gone, though. I want Matt to be successful. It's just not going to happen. And we have got to do better. Now, next thing regarding football. And the problem with doing this, and the problem with a show like this venturing off into a topic like I'm about to talk about, is Ole Miss is just going to say, hey, why are you so concerned about us? Why are you talking about us? But I do think it is hilarious now that Fresno State allegedly is looking into tampering from the Ole Miss Rebels regarding one of their players. So now we not only have one, but we have two public shames here of tampering. This is what I find to be interesting about the Ole Miss hypocrisy here. And these are just objective truths. I understand I'm wearing a PHL shirt with the Tiger Stadium backdrop and an LSU logo basically up here. Okay. I understand all of that. But let's just look at the facts here. Number one, Ole Miss claimed that it is stupid to allow Lane Kiffin to coach in the college football playoff. And what does Ole Miss decide to do? They allow pretty much all of Lane's assistants to come back and coach a team in the playoff, except for Lane. While at the same time, LSU allows an Ole Miss coach to coach LSU in their bowl game. Now, it's not apples to apples here, but it's amazing that they bitched and moaned about this for forever. And if it was such a big deal and other teams allowed former coaches to coach your team in the postseason, why couldn't Lane do it? Whatever. We can get into why it's different and all of it, but I found that to be interesting. Then you have Ole Miss fans saying, well, tampering. LSU tampered like a mother. You know what? Well, guess what, Ole Miss fans? You're the one tampering. You're the one with Luke Farrelly. You're the one with this Fresno player that is dealing with tampering issues right now. You claimed holier than thou when it comes to the tampering thing when you're doing the same thing. You're doing the same exact thing. And I am a bit sympathetic because the portal is way harder to manage while you're getting ready for a college football playoff game, right? We've talked about the calendar. So I am sympathetic to Ole Miss in a certain way. But you cannot moan about tampering when you are the only one publicly getting called out with your hand in the cookie jar here. It is so interesting. And all Ole Miss fans are doing, well, Lane will tamper, Lane will recruit, and all of that. And they were so concerned about Kevin Smith getting Kwan Lacey over. And guess what? It didn't happen. LSU got 4 total Ole Miss players to join LSU. We have to pay up for Prince Will. And then there was this random post about TJ Daugherty from a poster. It got shared a whole lot. That seemed a little fishy, if you ask me. TJ Dottery comes over, and then, of course, Winnie Watkins and Devin Harper. They all make sense. Watkins is a big Lane guy. Lane publicly talked a lot about Watkins. That transfer made sense. And Watkins was on the younger side. Dottery made sense. Chris Kiffin comes over. We needed a defensive guy. Prince Will made sense. It's very public how much we paid him. That made sense. And Devin Harper, who's from Louisiana, that also made sense. But that was it. That was it. So, it's just interesting watching Ole Miss play victim that entire time just for this to come back and slap him in the face. All right. So, it's a weird thing. Now, I just can't stand how much they complained about the tampering stuff. It blew me away. Blew me away. Let's go to Alexander. PMAC is electric when LSU basketball is good. I still remember Ben Simmons' year versus Oklahoma. I went to the Ben Simmons game versus Kentucky that year. Carter, LSU being favored over Clemson by so much in such an early game with as many stipulations is crazy. But is it a soft testament to how good this roster could possibly be? Yeah, it's part of it. And also part of it is who's Clemson's quarterback? I was on a different show with my guy, AP, last night, and I had so much fun. And he is so sky high on Sam Levitt. And, I keep going back to Sam Levitt and how excited I am to see him in the Lane Kiffin offense. A healthy Sam Levitt. But at the same time, On3 released their portal quarterback rankings, and their final rankings had LSU landing 2 of the top 10 portal ranked quarterbacks in this last cycle, Sam Levitt and Hassan Longstreet. So it's interesting, right? Because so much is on Sam Levitt's shoulders, but that's why he comes to a Lane Kiffin offense. He takes a lot of the load off your shoulders. If you know how to throw a flood concept, guess what? You are going to eat in Lane Kiffin's offense because he floods the field better than anyone else. If you know how to hand the football off, guess what? Lane's run games have been as good as anyone. Now, obviously on Thursday streams are a little bit different. Thursdays can be a slower news day than obviously compared to a Tuesday stream. I do want to share, now that we are basically almost officially done with the transfer portal, I do want to go through a few teams that I liked and disliked when it comes to their transfer portal class. And obviously LSU has to be number one, if not number two, when it comes to the biggest winners in the transfer portal. I would say LSU is probably number one because the rankings feel LSU is number one. And then, of course, where we were to where we are now is crazy. So I would say LSU is probably the winner of the transfer portal cycle, especially if you include the coaches that transferred over from Ole Miss to LSU. So no bigger offseason winner in the SEC and maybe in all of college football than LSU. But I want to go through 2 other teams that are on the lower end that were big winners. And I might throw a third in there. And I'm actually just going to throw this team in there. Kentucky. I like what Kentucky did in the transfer portal. They went and got Lance Hurd. Always big to get an offensive lineman from the portal with SEC experience. They went and got Kenny Minchie, and they're very involved with Sam Levitt. So I'll let you know that they put up some money. They did some good recruiting. They took one of our coaches that was fired. And they made a very much needed move to go from a prehistoric, old school defensive style to now with Will Stein, a quicker, shorter passing game offense with Kenny Minchie coming over. Now, Minchie could be a total disaster next year for Kentucky, but, as a backup, he was behind Riley Leonard, and rightfully so. And then this past year, CJ Carr, who's very good, beat him out. So Minchie, when he played, actually looked good in garbage time. So I like what Kentucky did. Then you get into a team that I feel had one of the better off seasons, and nobody's talking about them at all, is I don't know why my wife's FaceTiming me right now, is South Carolina. I really liked what South Carolina did. My guy Chris Marler had a really good graphic that this is one of the higher blue chip ratio teams that South Carolina has had. And a lot of it is them just retaining players from the transfer portal. So you keep Nicholas Barber, you keep Lenore Sellers, you keep Dylan Stewart, even though Sterling Lucas joined the good guys. But to me, no one's talking about Kendall Briles. No, Kendall Briles, one of his best coaching jobs was convincing people like me that KJ Jefferson was actually a really big time quarterback. But it was really just a Briles offense. And Kendall Briles is one of 3 coaches to have averaged at least 6.1 yards per play in each season since 2022. The other 2 are Ryan Day and Lane Kiffin. So Briles comes over, not quite head coaching material because of the baggage, and they pay up to get Briles to South Carolina, and he is going to run an offense that is a lot friendlier to a quarterback like Lenore Sellers. So you look at, I like what South Carolina did this offseason. And you notice a lot of these portal comments here have a lot to do more so with the retaining players, if anything else. So Kentucky, South Carolina, let's give them a lot of credit for doing what they did in the transfer portal. And there's one more school that I want to discuss, and that's Auburn. All right. Now, it's funny because every offseason over the past 3 to 5 years, Auburn has gotten a lot of credit for their recruiting, whether it be high school recruiting or transfer portal recruiting. But Auburn brings over a quarterback in Byron Brown, who I like. They bring in a simplified offensive system that does have a tendency to work a little bit quicker than other offensive systems. And they brought in some good players. So I like Alex Golish, even though the wins and losses weren't as sexy as one would have liked. A couple of 7-6 seasons, and then obviously this 9-win season recently. But you look at some of their losses. His offense looked terrible versus Miami. Whoop-de-doo. Whose offense looked good versus Miami last year? Dude, he's done some good things. Alex Golish has done some good things. So, lucky enough, we don't have to play South Carolina next year. I do think South Carolina can have a decent year next year. But look at our schedule. Auburn, we better watch out. Kentucky, better watch out. We got to go on the road and play both of those teams. I think both of these teams are going to be better than what they were last year. And here's the sucky thing about it. Auburn's best player went to another school that we have to play in Cam Coleman. So, I say what I say about LSU and how much money spent on this roster, and with the 9-game SEC, you can't really go worse than 9-3 to have a chance at the playoff. All the schedule's tough. You guys know I am more of a skeptic. I feel like I do a better job of picking apart weaknesses more than, the average YouTuber, which, you can be a little too optimistic about every team's offseason moves. But I get into the weeds here, and I'm like, damn, Kentucky, I think that's an upgraded head coach. Auburn, I think that's an upgraded head coach. But the thing that you should take away from this is that our upgraded head coach is probably better than theirs. Let's go to Chance. He says, Carter, your side chicks or side teams are definitely South Carolina and Arkansas. Oh, Chance calling me out here. I wouldn't necessarily classify South Carolina as one of those. Obviously, Arkansas, I'm married to a Razorback. So, sure, I like her being happy. But, yeah, I've some of my closest friends live within walking distance of, the hill. But where I went to high school in Arkansas wasn't really close to Fayetteville at all. I was actually closer to Baton Rouge. But, I don't think when I look at the SEC that I would say that's probably my second team. I would say Tennessee is up there, developed a pretty good following in Knoxville. And then Georgia. I do a lot of Georgia content. I've developed some friendships in Athens. But yeah, I guess I do love me some Shane Beamer. Yeah, Shane Beamer, though, you can make a case has the hottest seat in the SEC. Let's go to Pegasus. The Giants are interested in Weis, according to reports, apparently a hot name in league circles. So it would make a lot of sense if the Charlie Weis, if the Giants haven't hired an OC already. It doesn't help, though, that who the Giants were going to hire, Todd Monken, got a head coaching job with the Cleveland Browns. For me, do you really think Lane, with all of this time, doesn't have a backup option as the offensive coordinator of this team, knowing that when he took this LSU job, that Charlie Weis was going to be very coveted, which is why Charlie Weis's offensive coordinator salary is so high. Lane knew that there was going to be a gazillion suitors for him. This one's going to be tough. All right, this one's going to be really tough because the big elephant in the room is Jackson Dart. And there might be a piece of Lane, because Lane owes so much to Jackson Dart, that is a little bit more at ease knowing that Jackson would be getting Charlie and so on and so on. But, I am worried about it, sure, until that vacancy is filled. Maybe the Giants already have filled it. I don't know. But once again, Todd Monken was probably going to be the offensive coordinator for the Giants. He interviewed for the Browns job, got the Browns job as the head coach. So now that OC job is there. All right. So does it happen? I don't know. Deli Dale says, I'm reaching that I should be worried about Charlie Weis going to the Giants. And you're probably right, because he's been pursued by so many different schools. Beside of Jamie, what's up? Good to see you, Jamie. Jordan says he's worried more about the Ole Miss game, if anything. Yeah, well. Jeffrey says LSU will be 7-1 or 8-0 heading into November. How about that? Now, next thing. Do I think LSU, whoever you are watching this right now, do I think LSU's high school recruiting is still going to be really good moving forward? Yeah, I think so. And a big reason is because Lane is going to all these different high schools. One thing of note, and this will get brought up in the What Did Lane Tweet Today segment here in just a few moments, is that Lane did indeed meet with Peyton Houston. So Lane was in Shreveport today, took a photo with Peyton Houston. They were all wearing LSU gear. I know a lot of you have been sticklers about Lane wearing LSU stuff. I truly do think Peyton Houston is that guy. I truly do think he's great. Obviously, there are other quarterbacks in this cycle for 2027 that are taller, bigger, maybe faster, maybe a slightly stronger arm. Whatever the case may be, Peyton Houston has been one of the most productive Louisiana quarterbacks to ever step foot on Louisiana soil. And for me, I am super high on Peyton Houston. The productivity that he's had is just hard to ignore when it comes to collegiate success. It is hard to be that productive in high school and not be productive at the Division I P4 high school level, especially when you know more than likely Peyton Houston's going to be in a very good offensive environment. So I did like that Peyton got to meet with Lane, and I did like the trajectory of this quarterback room. It's pretty healthy. It's very, very, very healthy. Now, last thing before we get to break here, I want to talk about the Senior Bowl, okay? So Garrett Nussmeier's had a good Senior Bowl. We shared some Garrett audio yesterday. Todd McShay is really high on Garrett. He's always been a big Garrett guy. And Garrett is, to me, a good quarterback. I think he could be a good clipboard holder in the NFL, and then eventually turn this into him being a starter. I do think when it comes to Nussmeier, health was a thing, and he does look healthier based on what we've seen at the Senior Bowl. Now, has he been the best quarterback at the Senior Bowl? I don't know. I was thinking about going to the Senior Bowl, but weather. Taylon Green has obviously turned some heads at the Senior Bowl. No duh. When you're 6'6" and you run 4.5, you're going to do that. Diego Pavia pissed a lot of people off at the Senior Bowl for lying about his height. This is not a Tinder profile, Diego. You got to tell the people what your real height is. Vanderbilt had him at 6 foot. Bro is 5'9". He's short. And that made me more of a Pavia fan because I always cheer for my short kings at the games and the sports, and all of sports, the toughest position. So Pavia's had himself a good Senior Bowl. But the focus here is on Garrett, and I am a Garrett believer. I do. I think he can succeed in the NFL. And I do think even in this type of setting, you do have to worry about the INTs. I mean, that's always going to be something that travels with him. So I'm really excited about Garrett's future, and I am glad that it's been a good week in the state of Alabama. Schools lie about height and weight all the time. Giants are going after Jim Bob Cooter, former Lions offensive coordinator. Jim Bob Cooter was also the offensive coordinator right before Ben Johnson. I've always found that to be interesting because I thought Jim Bob Cooter was actually a decent OC. Actually, I'm wrong about that. I think the Lions had a year of Anthony Lynn as the offensive line coach, and then it was Ben Johnson. But coming up next, we'll get into everyone's favorite segment, which might include a tweet of mine. Power Hour Network listeners and viewers, you might be consuming this content with that crick in your back that you've been trying to get rid of for so long. Take this as your sign today to book your appointment with LabordTherapy.com. In the Lafayette region, there is no one that you will find that cares more about any different type of pain that you might have than the team at LabordTherapy.com. Book today. Once again, that's LABORDE therapy.com, or you can visit one of their 5 locations all throughout the Lafayette region.
Let's go!
On a journey together with Zion Imaging, I want you to see this experience up close. And me as a wedding and event DJ, I watched how everybody had so much fun with Zion Imaging. And a big reason for their success is the team. Yes, Jaron Thomas and his family started this off as a passion project, and they have one simple goal in mind: taking your event to the next level. Whether it's a wedding, reunion, quinceañera, school, or corporate event, Zion Imaging is all about family-friendly fun. And I gotta show you on this tour the high-level technology that quickly sends your video session to your phone, whether it's iPhone or Android. Yes, it's the Zion Imaging 360 spin booth experience, serving North Texas, North Louisiana, South Arkansas, Orlando, and more. Give us a call, 318-469-4265. Check us out on Facebook or book us at Zion Imaging, XYAN Imaging. Are you a die-hard LSU fan, and would you like to understand the complex game of football better? Well, sign up today for our PHL Patreon. This is his second touchdown. Counter G, why you're pulling the guard. We dive deep on recruiting and the transfer portal at a level that you have never seen before. Film breakdowns from so many different angles, and my personal favorites, oh yeah, the analytics, baby. I like to get nerdy. We take a look at cutting-edge statistics that help all of us understand LSU football even better. And guess what? Every new sign-up gets a Joe Burrow card in the mail for free. But we got to save the best for last. Our private Discord community of LSU fans from around the globe. Sign up today. Patreon.com/LSU football and put your name on our wall of patrons. Special thanks to everybody who's on here. Let's freaking go. All righty, let's get to everybody's favorite segment on the planet Earth. It's What Did Lane Tweet Today? Oh, man, this segment is just getting sexier and sexier by the freaking day. Lane Kiffin at Captain Shreve High School today. Oh, man. Captain Shreve. I have a bone to pick with Captain Shreve. One day I'll share it. Let me see. Ooh, this is interesting. Hope this is true. But anyway, Captain Shreve, not a big fan of this school. Not a big fan of this school. But then we get to Brock Berlin. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Evangel High School. That's Trent Taylor's autographed jersey in the background. He went to Louisiana Tech. And that's the Rivals.com Player of the Year. Brock Berlin is like the first ever five-star. Arguably the best Louisiana high school quarterback of all time, Brock Berlin. We then go to Lane Kiffin. He says, go for it. Take that leap. Listen to the part of you that's quietly reaching for something just out of your line of sight. Follow it into the unknown and trust your most powerful inner guidance system. Wouldn't keep you asking you to leap if there weren't solid ground waiting to catch you. If there weren't greater loves waiting to meet you. If there weren't bolder experiences waiting to find you. The desire to leap is a promise that there's something on the other side. Lane Kiffin's niece, this is Chris Kiffin's daughter, linebacker coach. Glad you made a new friend at Pilates this morning. His nephew, or her niece, or Lane's niece. And this lady had a Ho shirt. Crazy. Lane Kiffin once again retweeting the Boudin. And here's the rapper that decommitted from Syracuse, Tusi, talking with Jeff Martin and Leonard Fournette. Okay. I get down with it. So, game coming up. You still got time to get there. We're, 25 minutes from game time? $1 for every LSU student in attendance at the K-Yow game. And Lane Kiffin says, pack it. Keep it going. Sam Houston, high school football recruiting. Thank you, Coach Kiffin from LSU, for taking the time to come visit Albert Simeon and the Sam Houston Broncos. Freeze warning, 1 degree. And Lane Kiffin tagged Auburn football. Oh, that's rich. That is so rich. Love it. Love me some Zach Nagy as well. 6'4", 280-pounder Albert Simeon. These are the kinds of offensive tackles you want to get. Lane Kiffin having himself a cup of coffee. From Corral to Chambliss, Ole Miss has never had a quarterback run quite like this. Lane Kiffin, of course, retweets that from the same site that called him a gardening tool. That's our buddy Blake Ruffino. 337. Let's go. Eric Walford. Love to see it. Joshua Dobson set to make a return trip to LSU. Love to see that. And then, of course, Lane retweeting your boy. I love it. Thank you, Lane. We appreciate it. Big fans of yours, obviously. My new favorite. Lane showing love to Billy's and Boosie on the same day. It is cool to get Lane showing love. Glad to be a part of the retweet rotation. Funny thing is, this was actually the last tweet that we did for the segment yesterday. Boog, Jaden Boog Bryant, or at least I think it was the last one. And roughly an hour or so after, we got Lane retweeting this. And then we have Boosie reposting my tweet on his Instagram feed. So I appreciate Lane and Boosie for showing love to PHL. They obviously both have infinite amounts of invites to jump on PHL whenever they want. Beside of Tyler Townsend, what up, man? Good to see you, Tyler. Bizzle, Dakota. Someone needs to return Carter's order from Popeyes. Is that my inner monologue telling me that? Because I am pretty hungry. I tried this this steakhouse sandwich from Burger King recently. And I was like, damn. Pretty good. Pretty good. Let's see. I wanted to try and end before women's basketball so I can watch unimpeded. But guess what? I don't know if that's happening. I kind of feel like doing a 5-hour marathon stream. Sometimes you get into that mode. You get into a nice little pocket of space, and you're just like, I can go for so freaking long. That's what he said to her. Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, I kind of want to, I was saving this for more of like an off-season thing. But for me, I kind of want to just go through like position by position, how I feel about this roster, how I feel about a few other SEC rosters. Thought it was interesting. Earlier today, we had Kalen DeBoer get interviewed at the Senior Bowl. And DeBoer talked about the age thing, right? Like, it was fascinating watching this college football playoff play out, and you had this Indiana roster that was more experienced, higher age, all those different things, right? And what really fascinated me about Indiana is it wasn't necessarily that they were older, it's just that they were smarter. And obviously, part of why you're smarter is that you are more experienced, right? Football is a very mental game, right? It's more physical and athletic by nature, but mentally it is a drain. And one thing that was very interesting, friend of the channel, Jay Bud Davis tweeted something out about how the Indiana defensive line in particular always got into looks that would destroy your run game. They ran a lot of loops, twists, stunts, and they would tend to run them when it was smart to run that certain stunt versus a certain run look. And basically meaning there is certain stunts that are better to run versus duo, better to run versus counter, and so on and so on. So, like for instance, a quarterback draw, one thing that kills quarterback draws are a defensive tackle and defensive end stunt, especially if the DT goes first and the end loops around the DT. And the reason is because the defensive end has a delayed rush. Instead of just screaming upfield past the quarterback where the quarterback's able to run underneath you, you're looping around and you're able to see with your eyes that the quarterback is actually running a draw. And oftentimes the quarterback will run the draw right into your arms. And there was a few instances of that in our Jordan Seaton hour-long film study that we just did here on PHL. So why that's important is because, well, Indiana got really good at figuring out which stunts to run versus which offensive looks. And there was a good breakdown by, I think, Landon Tingwell about that very thing. One thing we struggled with is on some of the big runs that we gave up, we would run some weird things. It was either we were running some weird things with our front or our defensive line was just going rogue. Dang, Cole, use a pretty strong word. Huh? He said, Chance, you can get it on you too. God, dog. Do I not pronounce Kalen DeBoer correct? DeBoer, or is it DeBeer? Or is it DeBoer? Or is it DeBoer? No, you want to go 5 hours, AP? I'll send you an invite. Let's do it. I don't know. So we go to Alexander. How do I think the 2026 Indiana will fare in the NFL? So someone tweeted this out that the team that's won the national championship has in every season had the most NFL draft selections in the following draft. Interesting. So the player that's actually been the most intriguing for Indiana outside of Mendoza, obviously, is Pons, the 5'9" corner. So that is obviously really tiny for a corner. So I'll be honest. He's probably my favorite player on Indiana's team, and I'm cheering for him. I always cheer for people that are 5'9" and below. The only sport that has been consistently dominated by people under 6 foot, and I say dominated lightly, is soccer, the only major one. I wish I could be a horse jockey, but I'm too thick. It's a problem. Big problem. So it's Caleb DeBose. I think you butchered both the first and last name. Miss Toretta. All right. Before I go into this next topic, let's just take as many comments. Carter, who's my least favorite SEC coach with Stoops gone now? I think there's a difference between least favorite and who I think is the worst, right? I think Stoops was the worst over the past couple of years in the SEC. But the Liam Cohen hire was good, obviously. And he did it twice. Which coaching hire did I like the least? I think the one that has the biggest uphill battle, and this comes with potentially burning some bridges here, but it's probably Ryan Silverfield. I've gotten to know quite a few Arkansas folk through the SEC channel, and they're a mess. It's just a mess. It's really hard to win big when you have a shaky NIL now, but maybe even more important, a shaky athletic director. So it's amazing like how unpopular Scott Woodward was behind the scenes. I didn't expect that. But there's been a cavalcade of conversations I've had regarding that recently. And he get fired before, by far, the most unpopular athletic director I think I've ever seen in the SEC, which is Hunter Yurachek at Arkansas, which is crazy because Hunter Yurachek this past year was the most powerful athletic director in the country, taking over the CFP chair by luck because the Baylor AD thought it was a good idea to get into fisticuffs with the player, which is probably the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen. So Hunter Yurachek, very unpopular. Arkansas shouldn't be hurting for money. It's a poor state, but the top 1% has bags. They do. So Arkansas's hurting for money. Their NIL's a mess. It just is. So you bring in Silverfield, who, is not himself a play caller, which is fine. But he comes over from Memphis, which has been a program that basically every coach that's coached there has won. And you're now going into a 9-game SEC with not as deep of finances. You went and got Ron Roberts to be your defensive coordinator. So obviously, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And now you have, by near consensus, the worst quarterback room in the SEC. It's not good. Now, they have good players. They have arguably the best end in the SEC in Quincy Rhodes. I'm taking Colin Simmons and Prince Will over him, but to each their own. But I think I don't really hate any of the SEC coaches, but I do think Silverfield is going to be in for the rockiest first year. Then you take a look at their schedule, and it's a typical Arkansas schedule. It's never really too favorable, and I've never understood Arkansas's athletic directors and their scheduling. I just said that, ugh. Whoever thought it was a good idea to schedule a home and home with Utah, pass me that blunt, please. So they start off here at Western Carolina, then at Utah. Obviously, new coach there, but I mean, come on, it's at Utah. Then Georgia. Tulsa, at Texas A&M. So you have probably the hardest road environment you could draw, going to a completely different time zone. Sheesh. And then after that, you get arguably the two best teams in the SEC this past year, Georgia and A&M. Then Tennessee at Vandy, bye week. Missouri at an improved Auburn. South Carolina, Kendall Brow's revenge game. At Texas and LSU to close it out. You can make a case that Arkansas got the four best teams in the SEC all on one schedule. I mean, it is. Ooh. And if there's an Arkansas supporter watching this right now, you want to know what they would say? We got Darius Acuff. But yeah, dude, it's they are going to be the favorite to have the worst record in the SEC next year. Let's go to Jay Smith, 1013. If for some reason Nuss would have had another year of eligibility, do you think Lane would have stayed with him as QB1, or he would have told him to transfer and get a different quarterback? I don't know. That one's tough because obviously Lane likes mobility at the quarterback position. And I also don't think Garrett would have wanted to stay. You know, the one thing you cannot deny, and, you know, I talked about Garrett. I defended Garrett on yesterday's live stream, and it wasn't as well received as I would have thought. People still don't like Garrett for how bad it was this year. I do think, let's just say for some reason, NCAA swoops in and says, hey, Garrett, we're giving you a medical red shirt. You can go wherever you want. You're going to have 2 weeks to go wherever you want. He is definitely getting no less than $1.5 million to go be a quarterback for a year at quite a few P4 schools. Arkansas is probably saying, please. But Garrett loves LSU. You cannot deny that. He loves LSU. Loves LSU as much as any quarterback has ever loved LSU, for being honest. For sticking it out. I'm not going to go through the timeline like we did last year, like we did last night. So with that, he would have taken the Ty Simpson, Quinn Ewers route of saying, hey, I simply am not going to tarnish my LSU legacy by going somewhere else. I think that's what Garrett would have done. Let's go to Ramon Cuevas. Welcome to the membership, bro. Oh, that's a cool nickname. The Moon. Why? So, Ramon, before I continue, that's it. First off, your name, Ramon Cuevas, is great. Cuevas has always been a great last name. Part of the fun of doing Alabama film studies was because I got to say Cuevas and Cuevas and Cuevas and Cuevas over and over and over again. But why is your nickname Moon? That's a great nickname. But I think the world has got to know, Cuevas, why your nickname is the Moon. Here's my best guess, Mr. Ramon, is that you had way too many soda pops one night, and someone said something you didn't like, and you said, guess what? I'm going to tell you all about this. And then you come by and say something honorable. Navy veteran. Well, thank you for your service. We have quite a few vets that do watch PHL, and I cannot. I cannot thank you enough. A Bad Moon Rising. There you go. That's cool. Let's go to Pierce. I've got a better shot of being Lane's quarterback than Nuss. Well, yeah, you got 4 years of eligibility. Nuss should have went last year to the NFL draft. Strong disagreement. Strong disagreement. Because Doug had it somewhat laid out that he wanted Nuss to have this path of redshirting and getting as much college eligibility and experience in. So, yeah, Garrett had some feelers, but as you dive deeper into it, he probably didn't have as much NFL draft love. And I'll be honest. So I did this on the NFL channel, and it wasn't taken well. I did it not on the LSU channel, on my NFL channel. And I don't do a lot of draft stuff, but I decided to do as objective of an NFL draft evaluation of Garrett. So downloaded as much LSU All 22 as I could and went through all of Garrett's snaps, and I viewed it as much as I could through an NFL lens. I tried to be Mr. General Manager. And this was after Garrett's 2024 season. You can go watch the video for yourself. And I didn't like it as much as I would have liked it. And I said Garrett should have gone back. So, we saw Dante Moore do the same thing. Dante would have been more than likely a pretty nice first-round pick. But he said, "Hey, I want the college reps more." So let's keep it going. Jay Smith has been very active. And look, if I'm Garrett as well, I'm looking at it as, man, I fought through hell to become the LSU starter. I'm enjoying this for at least one more year. Do I think Corey Barber has a chance to get some snaps right away? Yes and no. It's going to be hard. Like, you gotta look at it from this lens. I think Corey can play all three of the wide receiver positions. I do think he's probably a better slot, if anything. And I would be a little, and I know it's different for you guys because you don't watch as much high school stuff as I do. Okay. So I try to watch as much high school stuff on the show I was on yesterday with the APUs in the chat right now. I admitted, not only there, but in the past year, it's harder. It's way harder to watch high school footage because of the portal. I would rather do a Jordan Seaton breakdown than a Bryson Martinez breakdown. Now, why is that? Well, which one's more important for now? So with Corey Barber, I did watch him when he signed. It was mostly just a huddle highlight watch. And I was like, yeah, this is a very solid 4-star wide receiver prospect. But it's important with wide receiver tape. And this is what Brett Coleman, who is probably the best NFL football YouTuber out there. I think if you were to poll film study YouTubers, and Brett's not really a film study YouTuber, it's a little bit different how he does it, but he tweeted out something that I think could help you. I'm going to give you the free game here for a prospect evaluation. He says, go pull the 10 best players at that player's projected positions, watch those 10 players, and then rewatch all the tape you initially watched. So I did that with Corey Barber recently. So he gets his 5th star, and everybody was burning this up. Hey, Carter, Corey Barber's now a 5-star recruit. And I was like, wow, when I initially watched him, I was like, damn, he's good. He is really good. He's a powerful player. But especially at wide receiver, because that is truly the most dime a dozen position. It's by far the highest surplus of position. As you saw, we brought in a gazillion of them. You can have a lot of success getting just receivers out of the portal from non-P4s. Can't really do that on offensive line. Now, I watched Corey Barber's tape, and then I went through and rewatched the best high school tapes from wide receiver prospects that had somewhat similar rankings as Corey Barber does. So I watched like the top tier guys. Cam Coleman is like my favorite high school wide receiver tape of the past 5 years. Didn't spend too much time on it because they're different styles of players. But I then said, you know what? Based on Corey Barber's body type, style, really good in the slot, I went back and watched Amon-Ra St. Brown's tape. Now, obviously, that's a really high-end player. But I was like, wow, like, Amon-Ra was like nuts. So then I went down. I was like, okay, what is a good middle tier 4-star to 5-star level player? So I went back, watched Jalen Waddle. All right, Jalen Waddle was around the same ranking as Corey Barber. The problem with Waddle is he's just faster than Barber. And Barber's got good speed, but Waddle has, I would slap your mom and you wouldn't see it speed. So, with playing right away, it's so hard at wide receiver. Like, I mean, you have just simply have got to be that dude. And remember, at LSU, Jamar Chase played right away, but it didn't take until the end of the season for him to start getting into the rotation. So, I think that's the best and worst thing for Barber, because now with a 5-star ranking, that does boost your profile, though. It'll get you some extra followers. If it doesn't work out at LSU, it could get you some more out of the transfer portal and all that stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. But I'll tell you this. A 5th star does also excite me because it does make you a better eval. I do factor in On3 and 247's rankings quite a bit into my evals. I do. Because why, with my own eyes, I'm not as good as some of the scouts, or pretty much all the scouts there. Why would I only rely on my eyes when you have these people, that make a good living doing prospect evaluations and all of that? So it is part of my eval. It's a good follow-up to this topic, and then we'll get to a few others. When you're doing film, how long does it take you to notice the really special players? You normally pick it up right away. You normally are like, okay, this is something. Like, wow. Part of it is because you're going to put your best plays at the beginning of the tape. But, like, for instance, Cam Coleman moved up in the rankings, and I was like, this guy is as good as Jeremiah Smith, which I do think that. Like, I would still take Smith because his career has just been so much better. But, like, Cam Coleman's high school tape in his final season, now this was when I watched his junior season, but his final season is literally their quarterbacks acknowledging that Cam Coleman has double coverage and is capped by safety, and him still saying, I'm throwing it to you, and him still bringing it down cleanly. That is mind-blowingly, stupendously good. That's like Megatron, honestly. That's basically what it is. And then obviously, Will Anderson is definitely one of those, like, that dude just moving at a different speed. But yeah, you like Odell's tape is like stupid. His stuff is just stupid. But I wasn't really looking at that. Huddle really wasn't around then. Oh, Keith is making a Trey Wilson, Jarvis Landry comp. It's interesting because Trey Wilson is actually similar to that of Corey Barber in that Trey Wilson has a 5th star from only one service, and that was Rivals on 3. So, yeah, there's some similarities between the both of them. The difference is I do think Barber is a little bit better of a big play threat. I do. Let's go to Jamie. The LSU Lady Tigers, SEC only showing Alabama at Georgia. Huh? Mm. God bless. It's interesting. I saw this. What I do, and what's up? What's up? Good to see you. I don't really know how to say this, but I had a friend, and I'll keep it very anonymous here. So I've not kept up with her at all. Knew her in college, and she was let go. She was let go from a position recently, and it was for a community thing. It was for a really, really, really good cause, and she dedicated her entire life to doing like community service. One of the sweetest people I know. And I opened up Facebook, and that was the first thing that popped up. Hey, I've been let go. No idea she did any of this. Last time I talked to her was, I think, in a Fred's parking lot somewhere, or at Fred's, obviously. And it's amazing. I do this. Hopefully, I inspire you to go do great things. Had a long conversation with another prominent Louisiana content creator I've not talked to in a while. And we talked about, just being dedicated to something that you do love. And I'm like, man, I love PHL. I want this to be the only thing I have to do. But I saw this, like, this person is like dedicated to actually like doing special things in like nonprofits and communities. And she got canned and got let go. And she had won these awards for this, and I saw this, and I was like, damn. And like my message, because I know a lot of people are being like, "I saw Amazon let a lot of people go recently," and it's tough out there. It's a tough time. So my thing to all of you, I don't even know what I'm saying here at the end, but is hopefully this can be an escape for a lot of you, no matter what you're going through. Especially if you get let go from something that you love, or you get let go from something where you were truly inspiring people or helping out the community and all of that. And yeah, I mean, it's tough. It is tough. So understand, we got 2 extra members, and any of you that, give your hard-earned money to me, I'm always going to give you 1,012 gazillion percent of what I do. Any call that I take regarding this, partners, whether it's obviously Labor Therapy. I told Labor Therapy, hey, you're not going to get someone that works harder for you than me. I guarantee it. So, it's interesting. I see someone like that doing something like that, helping people in a major way. It's like, man, that stings. I think about it. And I've thought about it all day. We continue. Carter, we went from talking about Jeff Lebby as a possible coaching candidate. Yeah, that was me. To having Lane in the number 1 portal class, life moves fast. Colton, yeah, it's funny. I go back on that. I still don't regret it because people took it as, hey, Carter wants Jeff Lebby as the next coach. I basically just said, hey, I'm going to give you a deep cut candidate that no one has talked about, and I'm going to let you have your own opinion on that candidate because Jeff Lebby did some good things at Mississippi State this year. A few lucky results mixed in there, but also a few unlucky ones. Should have beat Texas. That was going to be a signature victory. So, yeah, it's a weird thing, man. It's a weird thing. Trey Wilson the third. How about that? Arkansas winning by 5. Jeremiah Smith and Cam Coleman is Julio versus AJ Green all over again. Mm. All right, we'll take a few more here. I'm going to pull up the LSU game. I just noticed we had a bunch of people leave to just fully focus on the women's game. So, yeah, we'll do some play-by-play of the women's right here. Okay. The uniforms are sick. Oh, good ball movement. Bang. That is what I like to see. I like Johnson. Any name that begins with the letter Z is awesome. It's a flop. Yeah, don't do that. That Bella Hines. Yeah, let's go, Bella. God, look at this ball movement, though. Swinging around. not the foul. Yeah. Let's see. Type Y for yes. Type in for no if you want more women's basketball commentary. God, I love watching this team. Arkansas's not won a conference game this year. LSU, of course, has won 5 in a row. Does our baseball program really pay for itself? Seems like a far stretch. Probably not. Now, does it make a profit? Yeah, it does. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I think. So yeah, I guess you could say it pays for itself. Like it, but it's always kind of been like that. I think most seasons LSU is in the black. But yeah, I mean, it's always weird when you get these end of year, and I could talk while pay attention to this. It's always weird when you get like these end of year like metrics where it's like, hey, did we actually make money or did we not? But basically all you need to know is that the football team just makes so much more than everything else. And men's basketball is always second. Women's basketball is going to be losing money a good chunk of the time. What's crazy is for a long time, men's and women's basketball had more total scholarships than baseball did. Malaysia Full Wiley's insane. That was an insane sequence. She didn't make the layup, but that was just crazy. There you go. Let's go. Good block. Good block again. Let's go. The Ukrainian. Koval's good. All right, y'all. That'll do it for me. Big thanks to all our supers, Mr. Alexander, Elijah, and Mr. Cuevas for joining us. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Big thanks to Labor Therapy. LABORD therapy.com. Check them out. And tonight we are doing burgers. Let's go.